house through the window at night. I was alone in the house, and he ordered me to undress. I screamed, and he stabbed me in my neck. As a final act of cruelty, he broke the geyser pipe and roughly inserted it into my vagina. He left me lying in extreme pain. I managed to crawl and scream for help.
The harrowing testimony of a rape survivor, read by a social worker. The woman survived the horrific ordeal. She was not his only victim, but she said her life might as well have ended there.
In 2019, the suspect was found and arrested. When I was called to court and saw the man who had destroyed my life, I could not handle it and fainted. The court referred me to Arke Khan for therapy. The suspect had 68 victims, but only 24 of us were found by the investigating officer.
The perpetrator is behind bars, serving multiple life sentences. Another survivor, Samantha Pumal, openly shared her painful memories of being abused as a child by her father, with her mother allowing it. An emotional Pumal says she was later also abused at school by an alleged abuser who seemingly escaped punishment.
Back to the MEC. You said something about teachers. Ma'am, a librarian who molested me at school was allowed to move into another school. He was found guilty, but they moved him to another school only for me to meet him.
The prosecuting authority has urged victims of abuse to report the crimes, as it is never too late to report sexual crimes.
You've also heard survivors talk about cases that have happened years ago, and as a result, what happens to those cases. We've heard cases already. There is no time prescription in terms of when you can report your case. So that's number one. Number two, don't be afraid to testify, because by you testifying, you are able to get the message across, and that perpetrator will be brought to book if there's enough evidence to prosecute. What's also important is there's protective measures that we have in place to protect you as a survivor, in terms of you testifying in a separate room away from the perpetrator so you don't face your perpetrator, as a child through an intermediary system and in a separate room. So we need to make use of all of these and educate our survivors in terms of these are the protective measures or some of the protective measures that we have in place. What's also important is that we must also get across the information about a national register for sex offenders.
The United Nations on Drugs and Crime says South Africa has legislation in place, but should strengthen the institutions tasked to deal with crime.
Ultimately, for me, are we really measuring what is the impact of our endeavors? And when I mean that, are we actually also speaking to the community and hearing what they are saying about how the service providers in South Africa are going wrong? Because if we had to do that, we'll be able to actually hear valuable limitations of what we haven't gotten right. And that's really, really critical. We can't go on and on and on creating legislation to fill in the gaps if we don't really understand what is wrong.
The backlog in DNA test results was cited as a reason for the delay in the conviction of sexual crimes. But in May this year, government said the backlog was significantly reduced from 241,000 to only 1,600 outstanding results. Jade Paulse, SABC News, Durban.